return and contribute, and most tragically, goodbye to the future of our children. Let me not be too harsh, Madam Speaker. I humbly request the media, including the social media, to educate the layperson, to explain about such international financial institutions, even in Bhojpuri. It is indeed sad to quote an elderly whom I met in the Rivière du Rempart market this Sunday. She innocently asked me, "Beta doctor, hay mudiwa kon her?" At that moment, I realized that I had to make a humble request to our national media to do a rapid, responsible, massive, patriotic campaign of pedagogic journalism. Before these vultures of the opposition use such an opportunity, that is by using the lack of knowledge of the layperson to create havoc and, as we say, demagogy. The previous administration has shown us what not to do. They have cast a blind eye to the real, immediate problems of Mauritius, be it water and electricity, healthcare, education, drug abuse, law and order, or social housing. They govern as though they were spending their own money, not taxpayers' money. It is not a secret that nearly 25% of our current expenses go towards the basic retirement pension, that is the BRP. Providing allowances without proper planning and a sustainable framework has failed us miserably. Mark my words, if the former Prime Minister has the audacity to say he will reduce the eligibility age of the BRP to 60 years again, then let me say with absolute clarity, it will fail again. He has fooled you once and he will fool you twice. Madam Speaker, let us not forget that this situation did not appear overnight. Since 2016, the former Minister of Finance, Padayachi, knew very well that the pension system was unsustainable. Ils ont refusé de publier le papier disant de faire augmenter l'âge de la pension. And now, we are left to clean up the wreckage of their political cowardice. As the Honorable Prime Minister rightly said in his address, the MSM government has, since 2015, systematically built a cobweb of corruption, malfeasance, nepotism, and cronyism to bleed this country of its most vital resources, all for personal gain. It is in this context that this budget must be understood, not as a punishment, but as a rescue mission. The pension reform is a patriotic act. As the Honorable Minister, Dr. Arvin Bulel, aptly pointed out, the MSM-led government fostered a state of engineered psychosis, dividing people at a time when unity is of paramount importance. Our elders must listen to the voice of the youth, and the youth must understand the sacrifices their elders have made. As a responsible government, we are giving the youth the chance to contribute meaningfully, to ensure that their parents and grandparents receive a dignified pension. This is the time to return the favor. Every wise Mauritian knows that if we do not act now, we will soon be unable to pay not just the pensions, but even basic salaries. Madam Speaker, let me be clear. The ratio of workers to pensioners is becoming unsustainable. We currently have over 280,000 BRP beneficiaries. According to the figures stated by the Honorable Minister of Social Integration, Ashok Subron, At present, 69% of these are still working either in private or public sector. That means this system is not only under strain, it is being misused. Strict controls have to be implemented to monitor and regulate this issue. We need a new direction. And yes, harsh situations mandate harsh measures. But the difference is that we are not taking the easy way out. We are not raising the value-added tax. That would have been easier politically, but it would have hurt the most vulnerable. And this government does not believe in punishing the people for the mistakes of the past. Instead, we are choosing the responsible path, the sustainable one. Madam Speaker, allow me to draw a contrast. The MSM just before the elections treated our elders like dépôt fixe. They handed out money hoping to cash in votes. That is not respect, that is exploitation. In this government, the Alliance du Changement, we respect our elders. We respect our youth. We are not campaigning. We are governing. And we are governing with compassion and foresight. This reform is gender sensitive. I commend both the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister for establishing these two committees. One to support housewives, retirees, and low-income workers, and another to address the needs of individuals with health-related disabilities. This reform is not about us. What would we gain personally from this hardship? Unlike those from the previous regime who have secured safe havens abroad, we in the Alliance du Changement want our children and grandchildren to live in a Mauritius that is stable, fair, and prosperous. Let me also say this to our youth. You are the future. On the 10th of November of 2024, you showed your wisdom. You chose real leadership. You chose long-term security over short-term gifts. You said no to 20,000 rupees checks for those aged 18. You chose to be builders, not beggars. As Dr. the Honorable Navin Chandra Ramgulam has said, we are here to teach you how to fish and not to give you a fish. I urge our youth not to forget what happened to your internet connection at the eve of last elections. This budget will bear fruits. In 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, I have no doubt citizens will be proud of this landmark decision. We are maintaining BRP payments, and 81% of workers will not pay taxes under this system. This is a balanced, progressive reform. Madam Speaker, yes, some will be angry, some will be confused, but history will judge us not by our popularity, but by our integrity. In my humble opinion, it is better to become unpopular at the beginning than to become unpopular at the end of our mandate. I am ready to face criticism today if it means I can look our children in the eye tomorrow and say we did the right thing. To those in the opposition, I listened to the Honorable Leader of the Opposition and I felt like hearing a ship lost at sea. Once again, Wakasho style, rudderless, directionless. We can imagine why he's still arguing for signatures in the State of Economy report, tabled in this August Assembly by our Prime Minister itself. I sense desperation. Let us not forget, we are not in an electoral campaign. Let me say, this is not a Shilajit type temporary fix. We don't want fake strength. We want sustainability. We are doing this to save Mauritius, not for our name, not for our seats in this August Assembly, but for our children, for their future. There are two types of politicians in this country. One who joins for money fame and power, and the other one who joins for leadership, patriotism, and legacy. We know where we stand. The Prime Minister's vision for this mandate is clear: a patriotic, socially conscious, economically sound, and future-ready Mauritius. Let us restore the balance between public finance and our elders' dignity. Let us act not with fear, but with resolve. Madam Speaker, it has been said that the BRP system time bomb has already exploded. Before the shrapnel wounds turn into gangrene, we must act. Let us face this uphill battle together. Let us prove that Mauritius can change course, not through slogans, but through substance. To end, I shall simply say, yes, we saw the fire, and we didn't choose to sleep. We are the ones who chose to stop it. Long live the youth of Mauritius. Long live the Republic of Mauritius. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Jaman. Honorable Jaman.
Thank you, Madam the Speaker. Madam the Speaker, in my maiden speech, I said, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I said that to the Honorable Prime Minister, and I said he's the toughest of all that I have known. With this budget, he has proved that he is indeed made of another metal. Comme dit l'adage, les hommes se bonifient avec le temps. Et ça s'applique bien.
Les gens.
Les gens. Merci, madame. Les gens. Et ça s'applique bien à vous, monsieur le Premier ministre. You keep impressing us. Madam the Speaker, with all due respect to all the members of this august assembly, I can hardly find someone daring enough to present such a budget and to reform the basic retirement pension. Je ne vais pas faire de la démagogie en disant que c'est le meilleur budget. Je ne suis pas là pour flatter ce budget, pour qu'Azisik l'olaté de Premier ministre. But Madam the Speaker, given the dire financial predicament left by the previous government, given that we are bel et bien dans un précipice, with a debt mountain of nearly 642 billion rupees, at around 90% of the GDP, this budget could not have been better. I have been to all the private radio stations since the presentation of the budget. I have been asked, quelle est la marge de manœuvre du gouvernement? I kept telling, pas de marge, mais on doit manœuvrer. On n'a pas de marge, mais on a le devoir. We cannot abandon our people. They have voted massively for change. But unfortunately, we have to cut our coat according to our cloth. Selon le vent, la voile, on doit avancer. We are sailing, like Rod Stewart said, across the sea and stormy waters. To set the people free, our people free. Free at last, I said, Martin Luther King. Just look at the NBC today. Even the opposition is having a very fair trial. Just have a look here in this august assembly. The leader of the opposition has a better treatment than me.
C'est une motion de blâme.
No, but Madam the Speaker, let me quote a powerful generational reflection attributed to Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. I quote, "My grandfather rode a camel. My father rode a camel. I drive a Mercedes. My son drives a Land Rover. And my grandson will ride a camel again. Unquote. This is a stark warning. This is what will happen to us if we do not reform the basic retirement pension. If we breed complacency, then in the years to come, even those reaching 65 or 70 years won't earn any pension. As mentioned by our Honorable Prime Minister in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, in 2035, it is expected that the BRP will cost us an astounding 100 billion rupees. If the Arab world may run out of oil, who are we to believe that our current pension system is sustainable when we have no other resource than our people and human capital? Madame la Présidente, les gens, pas les hommes, doivent saluer le courage du Premier ministre d'avoir présenté une telle proposition de repousser graduellement l'âge d'éligibilité pour la pension universelle. Il aurait pu rester immobile, ne rien faire et rester populaire, as usual, le rassembleur qu'il est. Mais il a choisi l'action, la responsabilité et l'avenir de ce pays, l'avenir de nos enfants et de nos petits-enfants. With this budget, we are putting the interests of the nation over and above other considerations, over and above political gains, political mileage. We are not looking at the next election, as my friend just said, but we are caring for the next generation. We want intergenerational equity and fairness, as stated in the statement issued by the Honorable Prime Minister. It is morally unacceptable and unjust to allow the national debt to be transited from one generation to another. Can we, Madam the Speaker, leave a legacy of unchecked debt for our children and grandchildren to bear? Of course no. We are not governing like the previous government by looking at only today. For tomorrow we are all dead. No. We need to secure and protect our tomorrow. This is what I call fiscal intergenerational responsibility. We cannot and will not mortgage the future of our children and the future of this country. Madame la Présidente, permettez-moi de citer l'ancien Premier ministre, M. Pravin Jagnat, à propos du budget. I will just quote before you stopping me. Je peux faire un crime. Je peux détruire tout ce qui finit de construire. Ah bon? Laissez-moi citer quelques-uns de ces crimes. STC, 30 milliards de roupies. Silverbank, 3,55 milliards. CB, au 30 juin 2024, 7 milliards. Metro Express, 17,2 milliards. Betamax, 6 milliards. We can go on, and I will go for the sake of refreshing the memories of some. We have had episodes like pack and blisters, molnupiravir, and ventilators during COVID-19. And not to forget the infamous tag party saga, Patel Engineering, Neotown. Through my PQs, Madam the Speaker, we have seen how asset strippers here itself, Sattar Haji Abdullah amassed 287.2 million rupees. Nandan Gopi, only yesterday, the Honorable Prime Minister said he was awarded a total contract worth more than 3.4 billion rupees. At a time when we had a shortage of foreign currencies, Mr. Navin Bikari was paid 50% of his salaries in USD. These financial criminals, I've added financial, in front. These financial criminals dare to say we are committing a crime? Madam the Speaker, okay, let us assume that we have committed a crime by changing the status quo, by disrupting a system. Mais il faut poser la question. Je vais emprunter les mots de l'honorable Attorney General. À qui profite le crime? If ever we are committing a crime by doing what we are doing, est-ce que cela profite au Premier ministre? Non. Au DPM? Non. Les autres ministres? Non même. Et nous, les députés, encore moins. Nous sommes sur les terrains tous les jours. But, Madam the Speaker, we cannot do politics throughout our mandate. We do politics during the campaign. And once the campaign is over, no more politics. The interest of the country, the interest of the people matters. Alors, si crime il y a eu, si jamais un crime aurait été commis, c'est la population qui sort gagnant, présent et futur. There is no such thing, Madam the Speaker, as free lunch. Someone somewhere will have to pay the bill. And when it comes to public finance, everything, yes, I mean everything is paid by the taxpayers. Even our salary here is paid by the taxpayers. Madam the Speaker, in this country, there are allowances from birth to death, from womb to tomb. Is this sustainable? In our days, we were poor. I was poor, very poor. Yet, we were paying our SC and HSC exams. We are paying our transport to go to schools and colleges. In the last 10 years, freebies have been given away à tout de main. This cannot go on and on. This is unsustainable. Madame la Présidente, d'après l'ex-ministre de Finances, M. Budgetary, c'est un budget barbare et économiquement absurde. Je trouve plutôt son commentaire qui est absurde. Pourquoi c'est barbare, M. Budgetary? C'est barbare parce qu'on n'a pas imprimé 180 milliards de roupies. C'est barbare parce qu'on veut réduire la dette publique et le déficit budgétaire. C'est à cause de ça, c'est barbare. C'est barbare parce qu'on veut finir avec ta façon de gérer l'économie, avec tes MIC, Men le Port Limité, Vert Solution et les revenus de la CSG taxe. Je dis bien taxe. L'ancien Premier ministre même a avoué que le CSG, c'était un taxe qui a été rendu à sec par l'ancien ministre des Finances. Madame the Speaker, can anyone in this House tell me what was the economic model of the previous government? I will tell you. They allowed prices to rise, generate more revenue from taxation, allow the rupee to depreciate, and automatically the reserves in motion rupee rise. They distributed such revenue recklessly, and when that was not enough, they printed money to the tune of 180 billion rupees. Madame la Présidente, some so-called economists of the previous government are claiming that how come the debt kept on rising since we took office. Let me remind them that the only non-budgeted expenditure, as said by Honorable Utim, was that we undertook to pay the 14e mois bonus. Otherwise, it's a budget of the previous government which will end on the 30th of June of this year. The expenses are mostly structural, and we even had to pass a supplementary appropriation bill of almost 23 billion because they failed to honor their expenses, such as paying overtime for doctors in the Ministry of Health. Madam the Speaker, How they dare saying that reserves are overflowing while debts are soaring? Ça qui est absurde. Ils ont ruiné ce pays. While we are discussing about such an important, sensitive, and game-changing initiative, which is the reform of basic retirement pension, the honorable leader of the opposition took the time of this august assembly next year to make fool like a joking Jew. Of course, I won't repeat what he's saying, but I did overhear some saying here, Pagla Hogelbach. He dared to question how Honorable Damri participated in the preparation of the budget. Quelle arrogance de sa part. We respect him as a leader of the opposition, even though he's a best loser, which is constitutional. We respect him. So, please, respect us. We are elected members. Honorable Damri, as Gino Minister, has been tasked to do so. It could have been anyone else. Je pense que la défaite parfois rend des gens fous. Madame the Speaker, the budget is a financial plan that outlines how much revenue the government is expecting over the financial year and how they will be spent. When revenue exceeds expenditure, when expenditure exceeds revenue, it is a budget deficit. And it is the accumulation of such deficits that we call the national debt. As I said earlier, we have an unsustainable public debt to the tune of 642 billion, representing 90% of the GDP. And the budget deficit stood at 9.8% of the GDP. Even though we are being watched by Moody's and other institutions, which all my colleagues before have spoken lengthily, yet this budget has managed to maintain the revenue minimum guarantee at 20,000 rupees, maintain the equal chance allowance, maintain CSG allowances to those on SRM register, adopt a gradual phasing out of certain allowances until 2027 and not abruptly. 81% of workers will no more pay income tax. Those other lower income groups who are paying income tax henceforth will pay less than they were paying before. In order to generate a more equal and just society, the VAT has been eliminated on certain basic food items. And here I commend the work being done by Honorable Michael Siken to try to reduce or control prices as far as possible. We have imposed a tourist fee of €3 per tourist per night. Fiscal incentives granted to smart city promoters are being discontinued. Registration duty and land transfer tax will be henceforth 10%. There is a fair share contribution of 15% with annual income exceeding 12 million and 20% for income above 24, amongst others. 800 million rupees has been assigned to the Ministry of Agro-Industry. You're the luckiest of all, Honorable Arvind Boulel, for food security, and 2 billion out of 10 that we promised has been allocated to stabilize prices. We have also introduced the PBB, performance-based budgeting, to ensure efficiency, fiscal responsibility, accountability, and transparency. Madam the Speaker, this budget provides for parallel import of pharmaceutical products. I'm very dear to that policy, to that measure, which I feel should be gradually extended to other basic food items. IPRs, intellectual property rights, must go after a certain number of years. These junk pieces of law are protecting and creating monopolies. The Competition Commission and the Integrated Price Monitoring Information System are mentioned in the budget must see to it that there is no overcharging of consumers and no price collusion. Indeed, Madam the Speaker, there is a cartelization of different industries in Mauritius. I was told that competition leads to price cuts. Yet, we have dozens of banks practicing excessive charges and some making tens of billions of rupees of profits annually. This is absurd. The Competition Commission will also have to look into the price charged by private clinics. There are so many cropping up like mushrooms, yet charging prices which increase the blood pressure of already sick patients. Just have a look at who is behind private clinics like Artemis, Royal Green and Premium Care, to mention a few. Madam the Speaker, while there are so many things in this budget, yet the crux of the budget remains the BRP. We could have chosen other avenues, like raising the VAT to 20% or increasing the CSG tax to 10% or 12%. This could be a shortcut approach or a cowardice one. Madam the Speaker, there's a time for everything. A time for largesse and gaspillage, like they did. Yet they were booted, to use the word of our Honorable Prime Minister, they were booted out because people can't accept such dilapidation of public money. There is a time for the Rivière des Anguilles Dam, which has finally come. There was a time when only asset strippers, Judas and cronies were roaming around. A time to spend money that you don't have. A time to say enough is enough has come. A time to say business as usual is no more and option has come. A time to take bold, daring and game-changing decision has come. A time to take decisions not for popularity, but for posterity. Madam the Speaker, there comes a time, but once in a lifetime, when a government must choose. This government has chosen to act with boldness, to put people first, pour dire oui à une réforme de la pension universelle, mais bien sûr pas au détriment des plus vulnérables.
Honourable Member, I'm giving you 1 minute more.
Almost finished.
1 minute.
Accordingly, thank you. Accordingly, the government has decided to set up 2 committees to look into how to not to do what they are pretending we are doing. 2 committees to look how we can stand by the side of the vulnerable groups. These days we have seen, Madam Speaker, I used to say there are 3 categories of people. One who make things happen like us here. One who are watching things happening like those who have been booted out. One who asks what happened. These who will ask tomorrow what happened. But I have identified a 4th group. The 4th group are those sitting at home on social media and they are here to criticize all that is not happening in this country. Vultures. Madam the Speaker, when we stand here in the L'Hôtel du Gouvernement and we look outside Place d'Armes, we have one view. From outside, when you look here, you have another view. I fully understand the people out there. Some are angry with us because we have not made ceux de prison. Some are angry because our promises are taking time, malgré nous. Some are angry because we are reviewing the BRP. However, the majority will understand us because they sent us here to make real, tangible, and sustainable changes for this country and for its people. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Venkatasamy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Don't use other words than in English and French, and don't pretend like some of your friends are doing.
You won't have this.
Because otherwise it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it is with an immense pleasure, immense sense of duty and humility that I'm addressing this August Assembly today on the Appropriation Bill 2025-2026. Indeed, the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance should be heartily supported for delivering an inspiring, balanced, responsible, serious, and courageous 2025-2026 national budget. We only came to understand the enormity of the mismanagement of the economy when the audit of the state of economy was carried out. Madam Speaker, when our government took office in November 2024, both the economy and the morale of the population were in dire need of new impetus. Under the Prime Ministership of Honorable Dr. Rangulam, urgent national decisions were thus taken to restore confidence. The spirit of gloom, disgust, revolt, fear, and defeatism that had prevailed during the previous government reign has now dissipated as a result of relentless efforts of our Prime Minister and Minister of Finance and our Deputy Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, over the last 10 years, our country's economy journey has been one of a nightmare. Indeed, if you look at the direction of the main economic indicators, our country, each of them have significantly worsened. Our Mauritian rupee has collapsed again, the foreign currency, and our main importing currency, namely the US dollar, since 2014. Madam Speaker, this is a nightmare journey of our country's economy and its population have had to bear since 2014, as both their standard of living and the quality of life have significantly declined. The country was on course for a direct crash as the pilot gave the control of the country to we all know who. The cabin crew sat themselves down in first class while they forgot that their duty was to serve the population. It was indeed a sad last 10 years where our population not only watched a horror story but also lived through it. Now the government had to assuage the difficulties faced by the people and faced severe financial constraints. Madam Speaker, let me come to budget measures like research and development and innovations investment. The underinvestment in research and development by the previous government was blatant. Hence, institutions like the MOIC could not fulfill their full potential to foster innovation, improve our country's productivity, and increase our productive capital stock. Madam Speaker, I welcome the bold and decisive measure to allocate an amount of 200 million rupees towards research in our ministries aimed at improving our policies. It is indeed imperative that our ministries are equipped financially to enable investment in research and innovation to improve the operational efficiency, and their administration. Madam Speaker, we also need to ensure that a special unit within our ministries is set up to plan the allocation of the Innovation Fund and, more importantly, abide a strict implementation plan to achieve the targets. In fact, using best practices to project manage each initiative within each ministry will be essential in reaping the planned benefits of the respective investment. As our government has been mandated by the population in November 2024, transparency, accountability, and more importantly, tangible and scalable results should be key across the management of the research fund. Moreover, the budget also makes provision for all parastatal and state-owned enterprises to devise a respective research and development and innovation plan, which is aligned with the innovative Mauritius vision. Indeed, every organization falling under the government's responsibility should be equipped to devise the respective research and development and innovation plans. They will be thus responsible in forging innovation plans which will make their internal and external services more efficient. Ultimately, we want our population to benefit from improved public services such as less queues, less administrative waiting time, less missing files and documents, and overall more rapid and competent public services. Madam Speaker, as regard of road safety, I warmly welcome the range of measures which have been announced to increase the traffic security of our country. Any road accident is one which could have been prevented if the previous government had made the right bold measures required. Madam Speaker, there will be a dedicated budget of 205 million rupees which will be invested on making our roads safer. Indeed, apart from sensitizing our drivers, we all need to focus on our pedestrians who are very much reckless and tend to cross our roads where the danger is higher. I also welcome a reviewed version of the penalty point-based driving license system, which will be a major deterrent for our drivers to improve their attitude on the roads towards a more defensive one rather than current overconfident and aggressive one. The philosophy behind the point-based system is grounded on a behavioral corrections and public safety. It is a system used worldwide to deter unsafe driving practices, encourage compliance with traffic laws, and gradually escalate consequences for repeat offenders without immediate harsh penalties. When drivers are at risk of losing their driving license, authorities, while encouraging better driving habits, might implement measures such as drivers' rehabilitation and improvement programs. These programs offer drivers a chance to reduce penalty points on the driving license by completing a course in safe driving practice. In regard to labor market, Madam Speaker, the budget also makes provision for a series of welcome measures around the training, reskilling, upskilling of our population. In fact, the lack of more flexible labor practices is seriously affecting our workforce, who are torn between family responsibilities and professional obligations. Unfortunately, their family and personal lives tend to most suffer as they struggle to care for their aging parents and sometimes unwell family members, such as children. Madam Speaker, the previous government had promised a series of major amendments to promote flexible arrangements for our workers, but poorly devised and implement them. Our government will not punish our workers any further and have thus announced that more flexible arrangement will replace the working from home regulation, which will make a tangible difference the work lives. Regarding measures for women empowerment, Madam Speaker, a key challenge to promoting the economic empowerment of women has been the access to preferential and flexible financing program. Hence, our government has listened to the proposal and reviewed the DBM Women Entrepreneur Loan Scheme. We cannot continue with a situation where our current and potential women entrepreneurs feel helpless on which door to knock to access finance and support. The revised scheme will thus increase the maximum loan amount by 140%, from 500,000 to 1,200,000, and also increase the grace period of 18 months. More importantly, our women entrepreneurs will also benefit from personalized support in terms of mentorship, marketing, and networking. I believe that this support should also be extended to financial management, business plan, cash flow preparation, and sustainability management. Madam Speaker, now I come to my constituency, number 8, Moka, Coach Militaire. I welcome provision has been made in the budget 2025-2026 for short-term project. Setting up of incinerator at Coach Militaire, construction of Zanchili Bridge, construction of drain and culverts at Cantourelle, Petit-Verger Branch Road, Calimay Road, Gentilly, Valletta, and Coach Militaire. Reconstruction of Cité Miesotis Bridge at Saint-Pierre, construction of a cut-off drain along motorway M3 in the region of L'Avenir. In the medium-term vision projects, such as relocating the Saint-Pierre Traffic Center, pulling down and reconstruction of social centers at Montagnery and Saint-Pierre, reconstruction of Calron Bridge at Dagotière, cut-off drain at Beaubois, link road at La Laura, renovation and upgrading of area health centers in Helvetia, bus terminal at Alma near Résidence Lavande, link road from Alma bus terminal to Valletta. Malheureusement, vous avez. Madam Speaker, in November 2024, our government was entrusted a sacred mission by overwhelming majority of Mauritians. However, we will only be able to steer back our country on the right track through firm and disciplined leadership and good governance of this government. In November 2024, the Labour Party, MMM, Resistance Alternative, and Nouveau Democrat Alliance is the best thing which could have happened to our country. And we will leave no stone unturned to prove it to the population. Madam Speaker, nobody can claim that this government has a magic hand to solve all the issues of the country left behind by the previous government. Unfortunately, the country lagged behind so much in every aspect of government affairs management that there is still a lot of room to achieve further social, economic progress. Madame la Présidente, mes amis ont cité tout à l'heure une citation, mais au risque de répéter, je vais le faire quand même. Un homme d'État est celui qui pense aux générations futures et un homme politique est celui qui pense aux prochaines élections. Dans ce gouvernement, nous avons la chance d'avoir deux hommes d'État qui pensent à l'avenir du pays et nos jeunes avant tout. I would like to pay tribute to the Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance and the Deputy Prime Minister, who both ensure that this budget fully reflects their personal philosophies of an inclusive and balanced social development of the economy. Even tough decisions have also had to be taken. I will end up here, Madam Speaker, and long live Mauritius. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Junior Minister Basha, Fukun Basha.
Nous posons aujourd'hui la première pierre de la relance. Nous posons aujourd'hui la première pierre vers un avenir meilleur. Ce budget n'est pas juste une réponse à l'urgence de la situation, mais un projet de société qui regarde plus loin, plus haut et plus juste. Un budget qui allie croissance, éthique et responsabilité. Après 10 ans de chiffres faussés, de mirages économiques et d'illusions de feel-good factor, le retour à la réalité est certes brutal. Le rapport The State of the Economy, présenté en début d'année, en dit long. Il n'y a absolument aucune marge de manœuvre. Ils ont pratiqué une politique de terre brûlée. Les chiffres du déficit budgétaire et de la dette du secteur public ont été largement sous-estimés. Ils sont en réalité bien plus élevés que l'on faisait croire à la population. Madame la Présidente, ce gouvernement aurait pu choisir la facilité. Ce gouvernement aurait pu choisir des gains politiques. Mais ce gouvernement a fait le choix, a eu le courage, au prix d'un mécontentement temporaire, de faire ce qui est nécessaire pour assurer des lendemains meilleurs et de ce qui est le mieux pour les générations futures. Nous avons un engagement envers le peuple mauricien. Nous avons un engagement envers la jeunesse mauricienne. Nous avons la responsabilité de laisser, après notre passage, un héritage digne à nos enfants. Et c'est exactement ce que nous faisons aujourd'hui. En effet, l'ancien régime, qui se voulait socialiste et prétendait mettre l'humain au centre du développement, a géré l'argent du peuple avec légèreté, pour dire le moins. Aucune vision à long terme, zéro planification, des mises en scène d'initiatives pour des opérations coupe-ribon, des largesses irréfléchies et irrationnelles. Voilà à quoi le gouvernement MSM nous avait habitués durant ces 2 mandats. Et avec quel argent? Un argent que nous n'avions pas, celui de l'illusion monétaire. Mais les Mauriciens ne s'y sont pas trompés. Ils ont bien constaté que les prestations sociales ne correspondaient à rien aux augmentations dans les supermarchés ou à la station d'essence. Résultat, grâce à l'amateurisme économique du précédent gouvernement, nous risquions d'être classés junk state par l'agence de notation Moody's, ce qui aurait eu de graves répercussions sur la santé économique du pays et par ricochet sur le quotidien des Mauriciens. Un junk state veut dire moins d'investissements étrangers. Et moins d'investissements mène à la dépréciation de la roupie. Les importations deviennent plus chères, le panier de la ménagère coûte plus cher et les factures augmentent. Moins d'investissements, c'est plus de dépenses pour l'État, donc potentiellement moins de soutien à la population. Et les plus affectés seront les classes moyennes et les vulnérables. Moins d'investissement, c'est un ralentissement économique. Les entreprises peuvent être dans la contrainte à réduire leurs effectifs, qui pourrait donc mener à perte d'emploi, à chômage. Et c'est aussi une détérioration probable des services publics avec moins de ressources pour financer l'éducation, la santé, l'eau, l'électricité. Voilà les conséquences éventuelles d'une rétrogradation de Moody's. Et en tant que gouvernement responsable, nous avons fait le choix de protéger l'ensemble de la population de telles catastrophes. Madame la Présidente, au cours de notre mandat, comme annoncé dans le discours programme, nous viendrons avec le Fiscal Responsibility Act pour mieux encadrer les dépenses publiques. Pour l'heure, le présent budget fait provision de mesures pour plus de transparence et de bonne gouvernance. Le fait que le rapport du directeur de l'audit pourra finalement être débattu au sein de cette Assemblée et que les institutions concernées puissent mener des enquêtes constitue un pas dans ce sens. Année après année, le rapport du directeur de l'audit met en lumière des milliards de roupies de gaspillage. Et ce gaspillage représente ces précieuses ressources qui auraient pu être utilisées pour des services essentiels. C'est dans le juste ordre des choses que les élus du peuple puissent questionner l'utilisation de l'argent du peuple. De même, intégrer les fonds spéciaux au Consolidated Fund abonde dans le même sens, car le Parlement aura un droit de regard sur les caisses de l'État. Il est aussi à saluer l'attention accordée à améliorer notre système de statistiques, car un mauvais diagnostic conduit forcément à un mauvais remède. Et je dis remède parce que notre économie est malade du manque de vision du précédent régime, qui a privilégié des mesures électoralistes éphémères plutôt que des solutions courageuses à long terme. Continuer dans cette direction aurait été synonyme d'hypothéquer l'avenir de la jeunesse. Car il en faut du courage pour assumer l'impopularité des décisions devant lesquelles d'autres ont fui dans le passé. Et je fais ici allusion à la réforme de la pension de retraite. Depuis près de 2 décennies, les experts tirent la sonnette d'alarme quant à la non-durabilité de notre système de pension universelle. Quand la population vieillit, notre espérance de vie augmente et le rapport actif-retraité rétrécit. Et dans sa forme actuelle, la Basic Retirement Pension creuse une inégalité et une injustice profonde entre les générations. Nous comprenons parfaitement les protestations. Nous comprenons les réticences d'un tel changement. Tant l'âge de 60 ans représente une étape de vie synonyme de reconnaissance et de repos. Et ce gouvernement n'a pas été insensible aux réactions légitimes et critiques. Des critiques qui rappellent la réalité des Mauriciens, surtout ceux qui exercent des métiers pénibles, ceux qui survivent de la pension, les femmes au foyer. Le gouvernement les a entendus. Mais la politique en faveur des aînés ne se limite pas à la pension. Elle concerne aussi et surtout la santé. Et à ce sujet, il a noté positivement le doublement des fonds consacrés à la formation et au renforcement des capacités dans le système de santé. Car la modernisation de notre système de santé est une urgence. Et parlons de modernisation. Madame la Présidente, avec l'intelligence artificielle, une révolution digitale est en marche. Et Maurice se doit de monter dans ce train. Et le gouvernement ambitionne de favoriser la transition digitale d'ici 2029 et le budget pose les bases de cette accélération technologique. Et afin d'accompagner nos jeunes, Madame la Présidente, ce budget vise à créer les conditions d'une prospérité durable afin de retenir les fils et les filles de notre République, notamment avec le Future Fund. Et ce fonds, constitué à partir des contributions découlant de l'accord de la rétrocession des Chagos, a pour vocation de préparer l'avenir à travers 5 pôles de croissance, qui sont la sécurité alimentaire, la transition écologique, l'économie bleue, l'intelligence artificielle et l'entrepreneuriat. Madame la Présidente, L'une des particularités des crises est de mettre en évidence nos fragilités. Ce fut le cas avec la crise Covid qui a mis à nu notre souveraineté alimentaire. Et le gouvernement d'alors était plus occupé à surfacturer un médicament ou à passer des lois liberticides alors qu'une crise sociale nous pendait au nez. Et c'est dans cette optique que le budget fait provision de 800 millions de roupies pour moderniser l'agriculture. La terre nourrit son homme et sa femme, bien sûr. Mais nous devons la protéger, car les conséquences du changement climatique se font sentir. Et Maurice étant un petit État insulaire est plus vulnérable. Et ayant pris cela en considération, le budget prévoit 3,3 milliards de roupies au ministère de l'Environnement en mettant l'accent sur la lutte contre l'érosion côtière, la pollution marine et la gestion des déchets. Avec notre souveraineté retrouvée sur les Chagos, Madame la Présidente, la République de Maurice se positionne comme un État-océan. L'économie bleue est un océan d'opportunités. Contrairement à l'Ancien Régime, nous n'allons pas laisser passer cette chance de la développer. Madame la Présidente, avec ce budget, le gouvernement veut encourager la culture de l'effort, comme dans le sport où la victoire s'arrache par le sacrifice, la discipline et le travail. Et c'est pour cela que nous encourageons la participation des jeunes et des femmes. Et à ce propos, le budget s'engage à rendre le marché du travail plus accessible aux femmes grâce à des modalités de travail flexibles et à faciliter l'emprunt pour les femmes entrepreneurs. Investir dans les femmes et les filles, c'est accélérer le progrès. Madame la Présidente, le développement d'un pays passe aussi par une population en bonne forme, un peuple en bonne santé dans son corps et sa tête, c'est une nation qui avance. L'ancien président du Burkina Faso l'a dit, nous avons besoin d'un peuple sain, vigoureux et audacieux. Et le sport offre un cadre idéal pour élever chez nos jeunes ces vertus. Et animé par l'envie de voir une jeunesse qui se bouge et qui bouge, le budget prévoit une enveloppe record d'1,1 milliard de roupies pour le ministère de la Jeunesse et des Sports. Et cela s'ancre dans notre vision de faire du sport un pilier central de notre nouvel ordre social en investissant dans le bien-être de nos citoyens. Madame la Présidente, nous finalisons aussi la nouvelle loi sur le sport qui a pour objectif que les jeunes talents soient mieux identifiés, encadrés et promus dès leur plus jeune âge pour encourager une pratique régulière du sport et contribuer à réduire les maladies non transmissibles, pour promouvoir un mode de vie sain dès l'école, pour que le sport devienne un outil puissant de lutte contre les discriminations, la violence et les fléaux, et pour que le sport inculque les valeurs essentielles, les valeurs citoyennes, pour stimuler l'économie du sport, pour qu'elle ouvre la voie à la professionnalisation du secteur sportif, pour que les fédérations sportives soient mieux structurées et leur permettent d'être plus performantes, pour permettre à nos athlètes de briller encore plus sur la scène régionale et mondiale, pour garantir la bonne gouvernance et l'éthique au sein des fédérations et pour protéger les droits des athlètes. Madame la Présidente, ce budget amorce en réalité un changement radical de cap économique. Là où l'Ancien Régime avait basé notre économie sur la consommation, nous nous misons sur une économie de production, d'investissement et d'innovation afin de bâtir les fondations d'une croissance durable. Madame la Présidente, une économie basée sur la consommation qui remplit ses caisses avec la TVA est profondément inégalitaire parce que la TVA est une taxe sur toute la population indistinctement. Et ce sont les plus modestes et les plus vulnérables qui en souffrent. Et ce budget a fait le choix de ne pas accabler davantage la classe ouvrière. D'un côté, nous nous sommes engagés à ne pas augmenter la TVA et à enlever la TVA sur certains aliments. Et de l'autre, nous accordons un soulagement fiscal à 81% d'employés qui ne paieront pas d'impôts. Et la majorité des jeunes qui sont en emploi se retrouvent parmi ces bénéficiaires. Et pour l'heure, j'ai bien dit pour l'heure, nous demandons aux plus privilégiés de contribuer leur juste part et de participer à la hauteur de leurs moyens à la solidarité nationale. Madame la Présidente, je ne pourrai clore mon intervention sans dire quelques mots sur ma circonscription Beaubassin-Petite-Rivière. Une circonscription que, avec mon colistier, l'honorable Rajesh Bhagwan, nous chérissons comme notre propre maison. J'exprime ma profonde gratitude envers mes mandants pour ce renouvellement de confiance et de m'avoir cette fois donné la possibilité de servir en tant que député de la majorité et avoir les moyens d'apporter les améliorations et le développement à la circonscription attendue depuis longtemps. Madame la Présidente, ce budget est un changement de culture qui rompt avec l'idée d'un Père Noël de juin. Nous rompons aussi avec la dictature du passé, avec les persécutions du passé, avec le règne par la peur du passé. Là où l'autre avait confisqué notre liberté, nous la rendons. Là où l'autre s'est engagé pour se servir, nous nous engageons à servir. Ce budget est une déclaration de courage, de responsabilité et de relance. Ce budget est un tournant. Il n'efface pas les difficultés, mais il ouvre un chemin vers un horizon nouveau. Il ne promet pas l'impossible, mais il reconstruit notre pont vers un avenir meilleur, plus juste et plus fort. Je vous remercie.
Yes, Honourable Minister. Dr. Rampal, yes, Sir Rampal.
Thank you, Madam the Speaker. Madam the Speaker, I was looking for a quotation that would fit the context in which this debate is taking place. And I think I found one which is short, sweet, but very instructive. And more importantly, it is a message for the demagogues of the MSM. And it goes like this, Madam the Speaker. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. This is exactly how the MSM has been running the country for the past 10 years. Les dirigeants du MSM passaient leur temps à faire de la politique populisme au détriment de l'état financier du pays. Et ils ont volé, je vais venir sur ça. Ils avaient peur de prendre des décisions difficiles et courageuses. Ils préféraient d'anesthésier la population avec des allowances et aussi d'euthanasier les opposants politiques avec des provisional charges. Parce que, Madame la Présidente, le seul objectif était de se tenir au pouvoir. Et on le sait maintenant, pourquoi ils mettent le pouvoir? Afin de s'enrichir eux-mêmes et leurs acolytes. Chaque semaine, Madame la Présidente, on a été témoin pendant le PMQT. On a témoigné comment, et on témoigne toujours comment la caisse de l'État a été dilapidée et l'argent des contribuables distribué à des proches du MSM. Et aujourd'hui, c'est le monde à l'envers. Quand on veut mettre de l'ordre, ils se comportent comme des vrais démagogues. Ils essayent de manipuler l'opinion publique comme si c'est nous les responsables. Ils sont eux les vrais pyromanes qui veulent maintenant passer pour des pompiers. Madame la Présidente, un citoyen responsable qui a à cœur l'intérêt de son pays et qui est conscient de l'avenir de son enfant serait d'accord que, vu l'état de nos finances et les défis qui nous guettent, on n'a pas de choix. Il faut que nous agissions. Il faut le faire maintenant. Sinon, ça risque d'être trop tard pour le pays. Madame the Speaker, a nation that fails to prepare for the inevitable is bound to fail. And there are so many examples of countries that have lamentably failed in the recent past because, for the sake of popularism, their governments refused to see the obvious and refrain from taking bold decisions when they were required to do so. Greece, Sri Lanka, even Ghana are just a few examples. And maybe, Madam the Speaker, for those who do not realize the context in which this budget is being presented and who are still not convinced yet about the indispensability of some of the measures that have been presented in the budget, especially on the question of pension reform. We should perhaps take some time and remind them of the common factors that have caused those economies to go down to their knees. Allow me, Madam the Speaker, for the sake of enlightening our fellow citizen, a list of some of the ingredients of this economic recipe that brought down these countries to their knees. Firstly, Madam the Speaker, excessive government spending, often in excess of revenue, high level of public debt, high level of debt servicing, recurrent budget deficits, high inflation rates, government persistence to resort to money printing in order to meet their spending, misrepresentation of the debt level and fiscal data. Go and check Sri Lanka. Lack in export competitiveness, widening trade deficits, massive exodus of brain drain, and finally, unsustainable pension funds. These factors, the population will agree. Everybody can go and check. These factors form the common thread that has created havoc in some of those countries. Madam the Speaker, it is an undeniable fact that all these elements that I have listed are glaringly present in the structure of our economy today. I'm not saying this. The official figures are there to show, not the figures of Padachi. The official figures are there to show, without any doubt, that the MSM has left this country in a real mess. Let me just make reference to a report that just came out yesterday. The IMF Executive Board, the press release, came out yesterday, Madam the Speaker. And what does it say? Of course, they didn't take into account the provisions of the budget. But perhaps they took into account the erroneous figures of Honorable Padachi. But in any way, see what they say about Mauritius. And I quote, Madam the Speaker, if you will allow me. Mauritius is facing fiscal and structural challenges from high public debt, significant public investment needs for climate, low productivity, and, more importantly, an aging society. Risks to the outlook are on the downside, including from high global uncertainty, highlighting the importance of addressing fiscal and external imbalances to increase the resilience of the economy. On the pension system, this is what they say, the IMF. Pension system reform remains the key to support fiscal sustainability, especially given the aging of Mauritius population. We are not reinventing the wheel, Madam the Speaker. Everything is there. Yesterday, report from the IMF telling us that we have to address our pension system. Madam the Speaker, so what happened during the MSM era? Our debt, many of my colleagues have said it before me, but I think it needs to be repeated for the population to know in what mess we are. Our debt has increased to an unsustainable level of 642 milliards from 251 milliards when we left the government in 2015. A small, people should understand, Mauritians should understand, that a small, vulnerable country like Mauritius cannot sustain such a debt any longer. Not only have they put the country on the verge of bankruptcy, but they even wiped out all the funds of our public institutions and parastatals. CEB, Wastewater Management Authority, CWA, I'm sorry for my colleague, Honorable Patrika Sirvaden, CWA, STC, Metro Express, they have even laid their dirty hands on our foreign reserves. L'image, we can see les va-et-vient dans les bureaux de la FCC. L'image de la STC et de la MIC ont été entachées par des cas de passe-droit et de corruption. Et ces institutions étaient devenues des money-making institutions pour les dirigeants du MSM. Our debt to GDP ratio is at 90%. For SIDS countries, small island development states like Mauritius, the acceptable level of debt to GDP ratio is 60% maximum. What it means is that the higher your GDP ratio, the more likely that you will default on payments of your debt. This is what Moody's has been telling us. Not now, not in January. Pas cette année-ci, Madame la Présidente. Depuis 2020, when our ratings were at that time BAA1, we were downgraded to BAA2 in 2021, to BAA3 in 2022. And what did the government at the time do? What did they do? The MSM government did nothing, even they did contrary. They did contrary to what Moody's asked them to do. And you know what they did? They continued to borrow. They continued to borrow. Would you imagine? Moody's is warning them to stop borrowing. Your debt has reached an unsustainable level. You know what they did? En 2022, if you look in the budget estimates, they took 10.9 milliards from African Development Bank. They took 11.3 milliards from International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That was in 2023-2024. And last year, they took 11.252 billion again from the African Development Bank. And all these loans, you know, they were taken for what? For budget support. For budget support. To pay for recurrent expenditure. So this is how they ignored completely Moody's recommendation. Our debt servicing alone is consuming 21.8 milliards. That is out of 180 billion of revenue that we produced last year. 21.8 billion went for the payment of interest only on our loans. Instead of spending money to improve our health sector or to give decent education for our children, what we are doing, we are using 30% of what we earn to pay for the loans accumulated by the previous government. We have witnessed a recurrent budget deficit under the previous government. Recurrent, consistent, with a record high deficit of 9.8% of GDP ratio, representing 70 billion rupees. It means that we have been overspending above our revenue. And this has been a recurrent feature for many years now under the previous government. And this has obviously contributed largely to our debt today. Madam the Speaker, one should not be an expert to understand that our fiscal situation was overstretched. Not only do we have an unsustainable debt, but we have been spending above our means since years now. And a large part of what we earned were used to pay back our loans. What they also did, Madam Speaker, since there were fiscal pressure on the MSM government to borrow, or not to borrow, plutôt, the supposed independent Bank of Mauritius printed money, 180 milliards, to finance the budget of the MSM. Vous imaginez la Banque de Maurice, qui est supposée de préserver nos réserves. They started printing money to put in the budget for the MSM government because they were bankrupt. They've given everything away. This has contributed to excessive and deliberate depreciation of our currency. Since 2019 to 2024, our rupee has eroded by 30% against the dollar, 30%, 28% against the euro, and 30.5% against the pounds. Depreciation of our currency led to high-level inflation, 7% in 2023, eroding the purchasing power of all Mauritians. Worse still, they misrepresented the fiscal data, as mentioned by the Prime Minister in the State of the Economy report. And they made unrealistic estimates. And you know what happens when you make unrealistic estimates? Or you erroneously or deliberately give false figures, you lose trust from investors. International banks will not give you loans. You are not credible. For the last fiscal year, they had projected that the revenue would be 206 milliards, when in fact it was 180 milliards, leading to a shortfall in revenue of about 28.3 milliards. The total expenditure also was higher by 14.9 milliards. They estimated the budget deficit to be 3.4% to GDP ratio, when in actual fact, it was 9.8%. Vous imaginez quel type de ministre de Finances on a eu? Raté complètement ça. Hein? 3.4%. And when it came out to be 9.8%. They forecast that the public sector gross debt level would be around 574 milliards, soit 71% to GDP ratio, when in fact it was 90% to GDP ratio. They even purposely overestimated the growth rate. By far, the real GDP growth rate stands at 3.9% only, as opposed to an unrealistic growth rate of 6%. This was being done dishonestly to hide the real fiscal data from the international organizations. Our trade deficits have been widening year in, year out, with surging imports and decreasing exports. Today, our trade deficit stands at a staggering record of 210 milliards. Our pension fund has become unsustainable. The Prime Minister said it yesterday. Our basic retirement pension is at a record level of 55.4 milliards, representing 24.5% of our recurrent expenditure and 30.6% of our recurrent revenue. That is, for every 100 rupees that you earn, you pay 30 rupees as pension. How do you sustain this? Especially with the increasing aging population and the shrinking working class. All these failing economies that I've mentioned, be it Greece, Sri Lanka, or Ghana, had to bring substantial reforms to their pension plans to bring the economy back from the ICU. Madam the Speaker, I have taken the liberty to detail out these economic indicators so that the population is conscious about the catastrophic state in which the previous government left the country. These elements are the undeniable cracks in the structure of our economy, left by the previous MSM-led government, and which we are being called now upon to repair. And people should know, they should be conscious of the fact that if we don't act now, we are going to join these failing economies in the years to come. Madame the Speaker, le Parti travailliste a été l'architecte même du welfare state. L'éducation gratuite pour tous les étudiants, les services de santé gratuits pour tous, et la pension universelle pour tous les retraités sont tous les réalisations du Parti travailliste. Le MMM s'est engagé activement dans la lutte syndicale pour défendre et faire respecter les droits de tous les travailleurs de ce pays. Résistance et Alternative est un parti de la gauche et le Nouveau démocrate œuvre pour le social. Ce n'est pas avec de gaieté de cœur que nous s'apprêtons à réformer la pension universelle. on est dans une situation financière difficile. Ce n'est pas de notre faute si le plan de pension non contributif et aussi contributif sont insoutenables. Ce n'est pas la faute du MSM que nous sommes dans cette situation. Les deux comités mis sur place par le Premier ministre afin d'étudier la question vont sans doute trouver une solution pour les plus nécessiteux. Mais on ne peut pas laisser la situation empirer. Nous avons une responsabilité envers nos jeunes d'aujourd'hui et les futures générations de redresser la situation financière du pays. Mais ce qui nous agace, c'est que les mêmes démagogues qui ont ruiné le pays pendant des années et qui ont laissé la situation empirer par peur d'être mis hors du pouvoir, osent aujourd'hui nous pointer le doigt. But it will be remembered and they will be judged by future generations, and history will recall that during these challenging times, the MSM and its acolytes cowardly chose the path of populism to lead the country to the ruin, while the Labour Party, the MMM, Résistance Alternative, and le Nouveau Démocrate chose the path of bravery, not only to save the country, but to bring the country to glory. The country is blessed that at such an opportune time, the population has chosen Dr. Navin Ramgoolam and Paul Raymond Béranger to gear this country out of the ditch in which the MSM has left us. And for my colleagues, politicians, who are still in doubt, or who are tempted par la politique du populisme, I have this question for you to ponder upon. What is the point of spending your political life shying away from your responsibilities and your principles when your country really needs you to defend its interests now? Think about your country. Think about the future of your country. Think about the future of your children. If we don't make the right choice now and lay a solid foundation at this point in time, we will regret that we ever had the opportunity to contribute towards building a resilient future for our children. I will also make an appeal to the population. Do not get swayed by demagoguery. The MSN has always thrived on fake news and demagoguery. Et on me dit qu'ils sont en train de se mobiliser. Ils mobilisent leurs agents politiques pour rejoindre, vous savez qui? La mobilisation des syndicats de ce samedi. Comment osent-ils marcher aux côtés des syndicats alors qu'ils ont démantelé le fonds de pension de tous les travailleurs de ce pays? Comment osent-ils se regarder dans les yeux alors qu'ils ont taxé tous les travailleurs de ce pays par la CSG? Comment peuvent-ils se manifester ensemble alors que Padayati a engoufflé la caisse de la CSG pour des raisons purement politiques? Madame la Présidente, aujourd'hui le MSM se présente comme un loup dans la peau d'un mouton. Il se prétend comme si c'est nous les responsables, alors que c'est eux qui ont abdiqué devant leurs responsabilités vis-à-vis de la nation. Et ils savaient déjà, pas maintenant, ils savaient déjà depuis 2021 que la situation financière du pays était insoutenable et qu'il fallait prendre des décisions difficiles. They knew already of the serious structural cracks in our economy. But as cowards always, they chose to do nothing. In fact, they did the contrary. Et là, je me réfère au World Bank Report d'avril 2021, Through the Eyes, le rapport qui a été gardé dans le tiroir de Panayati depuis 2021. Through the eye of a perfect storm, coming back stronger from the COVID crisis. Let us have a look. I will just read a few paragraphs with your permission, Madame the Speaker. Vous imaginez, Panayati avait reçu ce rapport en 2021. Qu'est-ce que ce rapport dit? Au paragraphe 5, il résume tout. The shocks of 2020 came at a time when serious structural cracks were beginning to appear in the foundation of Mauritius' long-term growth model. Even prior to COVID-19 and other events of 2020, even prior to COVID, Mauritius was on an increasingly fragile development trajectory. 4 interrelated challenges emerged over the past decade. Ils ont résumé les 4 défis qui guettent le pays, qui vont affecter notre situation financière. And they listed those 4 challenges. A growth trajectory increasingly driven by consumption with a declining share of investment. They were telling the Minister Panayati, your economy is being financed by consumption. You have to change your policy. Mais qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait pendant les derniers 5 ans? Ils ont pompé la consommation. Donné des allowances. Parce que pourquoi? Parce qu'ils ne produisaient rien. They were relying on those poor people to consume. And then they were filling their coffers avec l'argent de la TVA. This is what they were. This is how they have been running the country depuis 5 ans. Et sustain, deuxième challenge. A sustained loss in overall export competitiveness. Ils ont dit que notre export est plus compétitif. C'est pour cela qu'on a un si wide trade deficit. Et rien n'a été fait. Continuous, troisième challenge, continuous fiscal deficits combined with limited growth effects of public expenditure, resulting in rising levels of public debt to GDP. Oh, depuis 2021, World Bank dit à Panayati que you have an unsustainable public debt, qu'il faut corriger. You have to stop spending. But then, Panayati, comme il est, you know, he kept borrowing. Et quatrième, et là, je vais faire un appel à nos retraités. Regardez depuis 2021 ce que la Banque mondiale nous a dit. An aging population and an increasing friction in the labor market, resulting in high structural unemployment and in inactivity rates, rising skill shortages and labor income inequality, and exclusion in particular of low-educated women and youth. Et au paragraphe 17, concernant the aging society, il dit que Mauritius is a rapidly aging society which is causing pressure on both the labor market and social security system. Et ils sont même venus recommander comment il fallait réformer le système de pension. A fundamental pension reform, while politically difficult, could bring the old age system in Mauritius in line with international best practice and balance fiscal sustainability with benefits adequacy. Et bien dire, this could be accomplished in a fiscally sustainable manner under a hypothetical scenario where the eligibility age for BRP would begin to rise at the rate of 6 months per calendar year from 2021 onwards until it reaches 65 in 2030, in line with the retirement age for contributory benefits. We are not inventing the wheel. It was said to the MSM government back in 2021 that you have to reform the pension system. What did they do? Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? Les poltrons. Madam the Speaker, I think I'm lost in my papers. Madame the Speaker, vous savez, j'ai pris la peine d'expliquer pendant mon discours que la situation financière du pays qui nous a été léguée par le MSM est malheureusement très difficile. Il a fallu du courage pour venir avec un tel budget. Seul, Madame la Présidente, seuls des visionnaires audacieux, de la carrure de l'actuel Premier ministre et aussi du député Premier ministre, peuvent changer le destinée de ce pays et de son peuple. Les dirigeants poltrons et capots du MSM continueront malheureusement à faire de la démagogie. Nous avons une vision et un objectif. Et en 5 ans, nous tracerons ensemble l'avenir de ce pays et de nos enfants. Madam the Speaker, I don't know if I've got enough time, but I would like, with your permission, to say a few paragraphs on my ministry. Madam the Speaker, allow me to say
Qu'est-ce qui est marrant là-dedans? C'est marrant.
that
Allez-y.
as far as my ministry is concerned, our foreign policy has moved to another level since this government came to power, beyond comparison from the previous government. In line with our commitment to the AU, the African Union, the Honorable Prime Minister led a delegation, his first visit abroad, to attend the AU summit. The theme was Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. And this is of particular significance for Mauritius as it coincides with the historic agreement signed on the 22nd of May 2005 between the UK and the Republic of Mauritius over the sovereignty of the Chagos Archipelago. The participation of the Honorable Prime Minister in the 5th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of the Indian Ocean Commission on the 24th of April 2025 on the theme Sécurité et souveraineté alimentaire pour le développement du marché de l'Indian Ocean shows the commitment of this government towards regional integration. In line with the government commitment on climate diplomacy, the Honorable Prime Minister also participated in the 3rd United Nations Ocean Conference held in Nice. The Honorable Prime Minister availed of his presence to call on the President of France to elevate our bilateral relations between the two countries. The visit of Prime Minister Modi on the invitation of our Prime Minister as chief guest for the National Day celebrations is a testimony of the unique relationship which binds Mauritius and India. Currently, Mauritius is participating in the Expo 2025 in Osaka, Japan, which is from 13th of April to 13th of October, under the theme, Designing Future Society for Our Lives. Japan is regarded as one of the key development partners for Mauritius, and we are looking forward to reinforcing that relationship in the near future. China has been a steadfast partner in our journey towards progress, providing crucial support in various sectors. We are firmly committed to building on this solid foundation and proactively exploring new avenues to deepen and diversify our partnership for mutual benefit. Europe has a special place in the socio-economic development of Mauritius and continues to play an important role in the socio-economic transformation of Mauritius through trade partnerships, investment, and a massive flow of tourists, notwithstanding the opportunities of higher learning and capacity building. We are currently in the process of finalizing the economic partnership agreement with the EU and Eastern and Southern African states. We also hosted the first Mauritius-EU partnership dialogue under the Samoa Agreement. With the United Kingdom, we have currently concluded the United Kingdom Eastern Southern Africa Economic Partnership Agreement. However, in the context of the Chagos deal, we have also agreed upon a strategic partnership agreement which will be implemented very soon. Our engagement with the United States is equally ongoing, especially on the tariff negotiations, and we are optimistic of concluding our negotiations very soon. I wish also to place on record, Madam the Speaker, the enormous assistance being provided by the United Nations and its organs in various ongoing projects. It is also important to highlight that my ministry is working on a foreign service bill, which will professionalize, I think the Deputy Prime Minister will be happy. It will professionalize the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the conduct of foreign diplomacy. Lastly, we have also commissioned a study on the benefits of all the free trade agreements currently in force in Mauritius. This was about my ministry, Madam the Speaker. I will end.
I think there was a, you said your constituency.
No, now I'm embarking on my constituency. I have only a few words for my constituents. Madam the Speaker, as I've said, I have a few words for my constituent of Mayberg and Magnon.
You have 3 minutes.
They have been, since 2015, gone through tough times. Their region was deprived of community development projects. The local authority covering your area, well, I'm addressing to them, was deprived of financial means. Your children were deprived of the opportunities given to the MSM agents. And you were treated as second class to the MSM people. But you stood strong and firm as loyal supporters of l'Alliance du Changement. The time has now come for you to reap the benefits of your sacrifice, patience, and loyalty. Although I am a staunch supporter of Manchester United, let me tell you, you will never walk alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the adjournment of the debates.
Who seconds the motion? Yes. Honourable Deputy Prime Minister seconded. The question is that the debate be now adjourned. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the adjournment of the House to tomorrow, Friday the 20th at 3 p.m.
Motion seconded.
Yes.
Thank you. The question is that the House be adjourned to Friday 20th June 2025 at 3 p.m. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The House stands adjourned.